Next, please.
So still that letter from Italy, he asked a question regarding the eating of the meat, the halal meat. Yes.
You know, I have studied this issue in depth from religious point of view and from the situation prevailing in the West. When I was here in from between 55 to 1957, the then Khalifa had appointed a committee to investigate the whole affair of what is halal and what is haram as far as the meat goes. And fortunately, I was also a member, so mainly the investigation was held by me. I contacted various slaughterhouses and various other places, restaurants, inquired from them what they do. Now, I found out that at that time, almost all the chicken available from the meat shops were definitely haram, because they were not slaughtered in those days. They were strangled to death. And if you strangle something, it is obviously in the Holy Quran clearly mentioned. Al-munkhaniqatu. Munkhaniqa. It's al-munkhaniqa. It's haram. So we issued an edict after approval from the center that no Muslim should ever eat the chicken available from the meat shops, because it is definitely haram. But if you go to a farmhouse, buy a chicken and slaughter it yourself, that's a different thing. About the cows and beef and mutton, etc., we found out that invariably they slaughter it before delivering the meat to the customer. Slaughter not like saying Bismillah Allahu Akbar, but shedding the blood by cutting the neck. The issue was, is that sufficient for the bloodletting or not? Because before that they stunned the animal and then slaughtered. Now I investigated, and along my team as well, fully in depth, as to ascertain whether the blow could cause the death or not. If the blow at the medulla oblongata here behind the head had caused the death, then that animal would certainly be haram. If it had happened, it would certainly be haram. If it was just stunned, and when it was slaughtered it would bleed, then in most important condition is met, that the animal should be slaughtered and should not be strangulated or killed with a blunt stroke. It's a blunt stroke, Now, this was very clear, but the question was, what about Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allahu Akbar? If Bismillah Allahu Akbar is not read before that, will that meat become haram? Now, we investigated from ahadith, and we found definitely verdict by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that if a meat is presented to you and you do not know whether Bismillah Allahu Akbar was read at the time of slaughter or not, you should not bother. You should recite it before eating it, and then it will be halal, provided other conditions are met. Now this hadith which I am going to quote to you, this is the one I read in those days as well, and we had some other material from the edicts of other ulama before us, who also had given issued the same edict. On Aisha radiyallahu anha qalat, qalu ya Rasulullah, inna huna aqwaman hadithan ahduhum bishirkin. They are not Muslims, you see. Yatuna bil-lahmanin la nadri yazkuruna ismallahi alayha am la. قال اذكروا أنتم اسم الله وكلوا. See, do they want to become na'uz billah min dhalik better Muslims than Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So that verse which speaks lam yuskar bismillahi alayh has been explained by another verse, and many great scholars are definite about it, that it means somebody else's name has been read. If you slaughter, there are two verses of the same type. In verse 1 it just says that meat lam yuskar bismillahi alayh is haram. In the other verse Allah says, I do not find, tell them, O Prophet, I do not find anything haram other than this. And there it is specifically mentioned that that is haram which at the time of slaughter is dedicated to something else, or some false god's name is recited before that slaughter.
قل لا أجد فيما أوحي إلي محرما على طاعم يطعمه
That is right.
إلا أن يكون دما مسفوحا أو ميتا
لا ميتا
أو أهل أو
لغير الله به
فسقا أو فسقا أهل
لغير الله أو فسقا أهل لغير الله. So this is a verse of Hasr where nothing is left out, and there just uhilla without the name is not mentioned. So the best thing of course is that a Muslim should slaughter and say Bismillah Allahu Akbar. And it is good and fortunate for us that the Christians don't read anything. Otherwise, uhilla li ghairillah would apply there. You see, I'm happy, because then it will become haram for us if they do it in the name of Jesus Christ. So after we submitted our report to the center, it was approved. And ever since, this is the practice of Ahmadis all over Europe. If you know that the chicken is strangled, because other animals are not strangled, we know, or turkey or anything, don't eat it. If an animal is beaten with blunt weapon, it doesn't does not bleed and dies, that is haram, right? But if an animal is slaughtered, the blood is let loose, blood is shed, and nobody else's name is recited.
When blood is shed, should it be definitely from the neck or any side of the body?
No, I'll come to that. I have got that in steps.
Yes.
I'm talking of people who slaughter without taking the name of Allah. Whenever they slaughter, they always cut the throat. There is no exception. Here, in Europe, in America, everywhere, either they don't slaughter, then that becomes haram. But when it is said slaughtered, it always means cutting by the throat. Neck is severed. So there is no doubt about it. If there are areas of doubt, then this hadith should also relieve you of the pressure on you. Because Hazrat Aisha Siddiqa radhiyallahu ta'ala anha mentioned a situation where there was some reason to doubt at least. They were mushrikeen.
Yes.
They might not have slaughtered it properly, they might have recited somebody else's name. So this hadith proves that if you know not for certain that it is slaughtered in the name of something else and it is sold in the market, you can buy it and say Bismillah Allah, God would make it halal for you. So when Allah and His Prophet declare it to be halal, who else is there to call it haram? Understand? But in case of some other meat, we must be very careful in eating here at restaurants, etc. In some Chinese restaurant, they still strangle the chicken and serve it without telling you. Despite the fact that in Europe, ultimately, they all started slaughtering the chicken. But chicken is something which you can buy yourself and do something to it. The Chinese thought if they keep the blood in the body, instead of slaughtering it, it will at least have more weight. Nothing else. And perhaps they like the smells as well. So they in some restaurants, one I remember was in Tottenham Court Road. I went there with a friend of mine from our university. We were going with students, and I said, "Come on, let me treat you with the Chinese food." And I went there. Suddenly I thought, I said, "This is a Chinese. He might have strangled the chicken." So the bearer who brought the menu, I inquired for him, "Do you slaughter the chicken?" "Sure." He understood what I meant. "Oh, yes, no problem." I said, "Then don't bring it, don't bring it." "Oh, no, we'll strangle it." I said, "What? Sure?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Yes, now I'm sure." I said, "Then I'm not going to eat it, remove it." He said, "Let me think." So I went to the manager and asked him. He said, "Of course we strangled it." So in such cases, one should be cautious. The second thing about which I warn you is pizza, Italiana particularly. Pizzas are sometimes without meat. They're vegetarian pizzas, vegetable pizza, those things. Sometimes they add some meat. Sometimes they tell you there is no pork in it, but there is beef and mutton and other things and mushrooms and things. But one thing people very little know is that the red sauce they use in pizza, particularly in Italy and other parts of Europe like Switzerland, always contains an element of pork in it. So you see the red color and things, lines, that is the danger thing. They always mix pork or some other flesh of swine by some other name. So, and they think this is not pork, this is the red sauce. Once I remember I went to Switzerland and Sheikh Nasir Ahmed Sahib insisted that he should treat us to pizza. My wife was also alive, my family. I said, provided that it has no element of pork, only then I'll eat. Of course not, otherwise it's impossible. He said, "What do you think? I'm a Muslim, I have dedicated my life, I have spent all my life here, and you think I don't care for these things?" I say, "I know you care, but you don't know what you mean, what you're talking about. I know what I'm talking about." He said, "All right, I'll take good care, I'll warn them, and there'll be nothing haram in it." So we went to the hotel, and it was a very famous, popular restaurant, and when food was served, then I inquired from the bearer. I said, "Have you put anything of pork or bacon or things?" He said, "No, sir, no question." I said, "Have you put red sauce in it?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Inquire from the manager and tell me if it has the ingredient of pork or not." He came back, "Yes, sir, it has." Then you should have looked at the face of our host. Of course we didn't touch it. But then he realized, innocently, poor man, that he had been eating it without knowing. So in Italy, because the question is from Italy, I warned him that he shouldn't touch that pizza, even if it is vegetable. But if he knows somebody, if he tells them how to cook the pizza, tell the ingredients, then sure, all right, quite fine. I once went to Milano. There they have a fantastic place where they excel in pizzas. We have never eaten pizza like the one there in Milano. And there I went and I asked the manager, who happened to be the proprietor as well. It's a big place and a very rich man and a very courteous person. I called him, I said, "Look here, this is our problem." He said, "No problem. I will not use the red sauce which you have mentioned. Instead, I'll use only tomato sauce. No problem with us. But I want you to see the whole thing while it is being made under your eyes, in your presence, I'll use the ingredients only those which you touched. So I went into the kitchen, it's a huge kitchen of course, and he was so courteous. He said, look here, this is the red sauce, away. These are the utensils we use for kneading. This is the fresh one for you. And you tell me which one to add. So I gave him a long list of beautiful, wonderful vegetables. And he asked the cook to pour a lot of tomato sauce and some other elements like, mayonnaise type things, which had absolutely no element of swine. And that pizza was very delicious. It was so delicious that even small children started eating. I was wonderstruck at the way things they were eating. Particularly one joke I must tell about my little Tuba, who is now grown up. She was with me and she was so fond of pizzas, and she said, wonderful, and I'm going to have the full, big one. I said, you can't finish it. I will, you see. And she finished half of it and she was up, full up here, up to here. I said, oh, I can't finish it. No problem. I said, let's have it packed and take it to home. Later on you would like to have it. She said, no, I'm so full. It's impossible for me to feel hungry by tomorrow lunch. So let me give it to the dog. That gentleman had a big old dog, very fat and very fluffy and charming little dog, but very aged too. So Tuba fed the whole of the Ribery pizza to that dog. And we returned to our hotel, and at night at about 12 o'clock I got up and Tuba was looking in the fridge and things. I said, what is it? What do you want? He said, Abba, is there any pizza left? So it's filling in the beginning, but it gets assimilated very quickly, digested very soon. So this is all about halal and haram.
Yes, okay.
To end on a note which is which would be more particularly applicable to an Italian situation, I said all this. And so they do make good pizza. Here too, and I think in some places in America, because of Ahmediyya efforts with the grace of Allah, the other Muslims don't know, we have been holding regular correspondence with some popular pizza houses. Pizza Hut like here in Wandsworth and some other places. And we warn them that if you are not honest with us, then nobody is going to buy your pizza. So we'll tell all the Muslims. So we don't want that ingredient to be added to your red sauce. Then they committed themselves in writing. One of them, we wrote to many. One of them said, we already don't use. And we knew, we were conscious of the fact that it's a multi-religious society, there are some Muslims as well. And some others said, we used to do it, but we promised never to touch it. So with the grace of Allah, many pizza houses in England, because of Ahmediyya efforts, have stopped using red sauce with the flesh of swine, whatever they call it. See, in America too, I stay with my eldest cousin. We call him brother. In fact, more than a brother, close to each other. He's the Amir of the United States. So he's a very hospitable man, very absolutely fantastic. So he was fond of bringing things from one hotel to another to have it as a taste of that pizza and that ice cream and that something. So I told him, and he had already, of course, made arrangements with the pizza houses from where they bought pizza. There will be no touch of the flesh of swine at all. So other Muslims, if they do it like we have done it, all the pizza houses, I'm sure, because they are just commercial people, they would start discarding that ingredient which we don't approve, and the rest is fine. Right?
You started with England.
We started with England.
Yes.
But also the same thing was done in America, and Ahmadis elsewhere also are doing it because they've heard of all this, and they're following it up, mashallah. So all the rest of the Muslims should also do it. This is what
ولذلك فإن نصيحة حضرة أمير المؤمنين أن على المسلمين في كافة أنحاء العالم أن يتبعوا هذا المثل وأن يقوموا بهذا الأمر، وسيوفقهم الله إلى أن يكون هذا الطعام حلالا فيأكلونه وهم مطمئنون.
جزاكم الله. السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
We'll meet again.